Welcome to another Ashram Talk session. We're joined by Chandramukhi from Australia today. Welcome, Chandramukhi. Thanks so much for being here with us again.
Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
Yeah, likewise. Today we're going to explore a topic that's central to the Gita, which is actually that our spiritual life does not have to be different or separate from our daily activities. So, Chandramukhi, I know we were kind of discussing there's this conception that if I'm going to take up a spiritual life, it means that I might actually have to distance myself from my other responsibilities or my, worldly responsibilities. In what ways, just to kind of set the tone for today, in what ways would you say the Gita challenges this idea?
It's a really interesting topic, actually. I talk to so many people who are so busy and feel that they can't do anything extra in their life, right? No time for reading or no time for sitting down, meditating or whatever. And it's really interesting because the Gita is just so amazing that it teaches how to be connected to divinity in everything you do. So, um, and also how our actions can transform us, and that's amazing. It's actually revolutionary when you think about it, because like Arjuna is on the battlefield. He's not stopping to sit and meditate or separate his activities either. Krishna's saying fight, and so he's saying the same thing for us: carry on with what you're doing, but what are you going to think about? And that's what we're going to be talking today, is where our thoughts are, what our focus is, how our thoughts shape our reality within whatever we're doing. So it's a
Yeah.
very exciting topic, and the whole Gita, like you say, is really shows this in so much detail.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And it almost sounds like, the teachings from the Gita and this practice could be relevant for anyone, whether there's someone who considers like maybe they have a lot of time to dedicate to spiritual life, or someone who feels like you mentioned, like they don't have time. Seems like there kind of is something for everyone, right? Is the sense I'm getting from you.
Definitely, yes, for sure.
Well, that's very exciting. Yeah, so welcome, Colleen, again, who's joining us today. And whenever you're ready, Chandramukhi, we can get started for today.
Okay, yes, welcome, Colleen. It's so nice to see you here every week. One day we have to meet you too. It'd be so nice. Okay, well, I'm going to start with my Mangala Charana, which is the auspicious invocation, praying for the blessings and inspiration from our previous teachers. So, Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasachare Shatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So first of all, I'm offering my obeisances, offering flowers at the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, my spiritual master, my divine master, Om Vishnupad Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, onto the lotus feet of Nityalila Pravista Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, who brought these teachings of the Bhagavad Gita to the West, and praying for their mercy of all of our divine teachers and their blessings today. Okay, so we're in chapter 4. Chapter 4 is entitled Transcendental Knowledge, and we've been hearing so many wonderful things about this topic. And today's verse, we're up to verse 24, so we'll dive into that and then look at the details of what Krishna is saying here. So, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. So the English translation of this: a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom. because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. So we're going to go into the details of this verse and how this verse relates to us in our everyday life and our activities. So I'm just going to bring up my other notes here. Here we go. So at first, this verse can seem a little bit ambiguous with how it's saying in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. It's very interesting when we actually look at the verse itself, the Sanskrit itself. We can see that there's a repetition of some words. It's saying Brahma, 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 and the word Brahma can be translated as the supreme spiritual reality. So, this verse is speaking about the consciousness one is in within your activities. Now, we all engaged in material activities in whatever we're doing. We're in a body, we're in a physical body, we're engaging whatever we're doing through our senses. And it's interesting, though, that everything in existence, the earth, water, fire, air, ether, that is making up the world, comes from who? Comes from the supreme divinity, the personality of Godhead. It actually has a divine source, but the material elements are working, but they're only working because, as Krishna says later in the Gita, everything in existence is like pearls upon a thread, meaning that he is like the thread and everything is situated in him. So there's actually the consciousness that we have as conditioned souls, where we feel that we're separate from God, is only an illusion. It's actually illusory, God's illusory potency of Maya, creating illusion because we want to forget God. But as soon as we want to remember God, then he is right there, because he is inside and outside everything. Everything is resting on him. And even the material elements are coming from his energy. And so this verse is saying, getting us to transform, guiding us to transform our thoughts, our consciousness, what we focus on within everything we do. So it says a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So what is that? Awareness, first of all, of God within everything, without everything, as he very much outlines throughout the Gita, how he is present everywhere as the supersoul within the heart of all living beings, but not only that, present within every atom. So actually nothing is separate from him, and everything can be transformed by our consciousness. And so one who is absorbed in this consciousness can attain spiritual kingdom. So when we're always, actually whatever we focus on leads us in various directions in our life. And as we read back in chapter 2, whatever we contemplate, when we contemplate the objects of the senses, so when we contemplate that which will give us material enjoyment and indulgence in this world, then we get a desire for it, and then we get to taste it. But usually in this world, there's usually a bad taste, unfortunately, because actually you could say fortunately, because we are Atma, we are soul, we are spirit by nature, and the soul doesn't get satisfied by material enjoyment. And so if we were satisfied, we'd always be here, right? We wouldn't turn to a higher reality. We wouldn't search for something more. But it's actually God's grace in our life when we don't get satisfaction in our material enjoyment, that then we start to look and search, well, who am I? Why am I here? And what's this world all about? And so so basically the point is that whatever we focus on brings us into reality. We might get a desire as a young person, we're growing up, and we start to get desires of what we want to do with our life. We might want to be a doctor, might want to be a teacher, might want to be a yoga instructor, or whatever it is, whatever we feel our propensities built into our nature that we have in this life, according to our previous actions, according to our karma. Then we get that desire, we contemplate it, we meditate on it, we work hard to attain it. We might have to study under a teacher to get there. And it's always part of our focus, especially while we're studying. I know I've been to university, went there for 4 years. You always have to focus on it. You have to focus on it to master the skill. You have to really absorb yourself in it. And then you master the skill, and then your learning goes on. So it is the same with spiritual life. And when we get a strong desire that I am a spirit soul, I have an eternal spiritual nature, and I don't know what that is. And God is there. And actually, I have an eternal relationship with God, and He is with me always. And I can see His presence in my life. I want to realize Him. I want to deepen that connection with Him. So when that desire is awakened, then we can absorb our mind and consciousness in trying to awaken that. And it does take absorption. That's why this verse is saying being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And once we're fully absorbed, then we can actually realize our eternal spiritual identity as an eternal associate, loving companion of the Lord in His eternal realm, the spiritual kingdom. And then he's saying because of His full contribution to spiritual activities. So giving everything, giving all one's focus. So first there's focus, and then there's the activity, but then there's the activity that you're doing, and then what you're focusing on. What is it that we're focusing on? What is our intention behind everything we do? So then this verse is saying, and so I'm going to actually look at another version of the Gita, which is still the Gita. It is actually the commentaries by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of our great teachers in our line, and my Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. And they're complementary to Srila Prabhupada's Gita. In this one, it actually shows what the specific word meaning in the verse is. And so it says, if we go to the actual Sanskrit of the verse, we can see that it says Brahma, so that's to the supreme reality. Arpanam, the offering, so the sacrificial spoons and paraphernalia. But basically, I'm not going to go through every word in order. We're going to go through the translation as it is. So the performance of fire sacrifice or yagya, in which the instruments for offering, such as the spoon, the ingredients to be offered, such as the ghee, the place where the offering is made, the sacrificial fire, the person making the offering, the priest, and the act of offering itself are all Brahma or spiritual in nature and meant for the revelation of Brahma, transcendence. So this is talking about one type of sacrifice, which is offering. You may have seen in India, there's different yagyas or fire sacrifices take place at special occasions, like, for example, a wedding. The bride and the groom will sit down at the fire yagya, and ghee will be offered by a spoon. There'll be different offerings made into the fire, and the fire is actually known as like the mouth of Vishnu, or the mouth of God, where you can offer it to Him like that. So that's one type of yagya. But in this verse, he's actually, it's going, if we look at the commentary, my Gurudev quotes Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as saying that here it's showing how work in the form of sacrifice gives rise to knowledge or transcendental knowledge. So work, the act of doing our daily duties, if we transform that into a sacrifice, then every aspect of what we do becomes spiritualized and guides us to divine consciousness. So right now in this verse, Krishna is describing the principle of sacrifice. He's not going into different types of sacrifice. And in the coming verses, there's going to be all different types of activities that are going to be described, that to lead us to this point of absorption in Krishna. But the fundamental principle he's describing here. So material actions are compulsory for the living entity who is bound to material consciousness. So when we're bound in this world, we're bound to perform material activities. But within those activities, when we go about our daily activities in such a way, while we're deliberating or contemplating on the spiritual reality, then it changes. So it's all about our contemplation. When we're contemplating the spiritual reality, deliberating in our mind on the spiritual reality, while we're engaged in all kinds of activities, whatever we're doing in our life, it is called yajna. It becomes sacrifice. So what it means is it becomes an offering to God, and it absorbs our mind in the Lord. So it actually enables us to realize the conscious reality within and without everything. And yes, the spiritual reality is distinct from matter. It's distinct from this material world. However, it can become transformed. And so it becomes, so everything, so in this verse it's saying, it's giving the example of a fire yajna, where the instrument for offering, the fire, the person who's doing it, the ingredients, and the result of it all become spiritual reality. They become transformed. So we can also think of that in our own life. So whatever we're doing, we can just take any activity. So just say it's cleaning a house, or we could say going shopping, or we could going to work. Whatever we're doing, whatever activity, we can take that activity and break it down. So who's doing it? That's me or you. What's the instrument? Okay, so cleaning the house, that's the broom or the vacuum cleaner, or your shopping trolley, or your desk at work, or for me the classroom and the desks or whatever. So there's the instruments that are there, and then there's the actual action that you're doing, the result of the action. Okay, so every part of our actions can be transformed if our mind is situated in the spiritual reality and we're contemplating, deliberating upon the spiritual reality. And then every action we're doing then becomes an offering, rather than, what's the opposite? The opposite is doing it for myself, having waking up and thinking, yes, I'm going to work, or I'm going to be cleaning the house for me, for my extended mindness, which is my family, my me, me and mine, all self-centered, just for me. But if we wake up in the day, no, I'm actually an eternal servant of God. I'm part and parcel of Him, and so are my family members. That's our eternal identity, that we are part and parcel of God, and our real nature is to serve Him. And when I can remember Him within everything, then one, I will be happy. Two, everything will be spiritualized in our life, and everything will be like an offering, and everything becomes transformed. So we've had that attitude, then it changes the nature of everything we do. One example has been given by our teachers is of when you have an iron rod and you put it in a fire, and it becomes like fire. If you put that iron rod on something, it'll burn it. And so a similar way, everything we're doing in our daily activities can become transformed and spiritualized. Our Srila Prabhupada in his commentary gives an example of a patient suffering from a disorder he actually says of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk products. But the actual that condition is cured by another milk product, namely curd. So basically the absorption, our material absorption, can be cured by Krishna consciousness. It can be cured by using the very things that normally absorbs us and transforming them and offering them to God. And then we come to the point, well, hang on then, how is it that I can be absorbed then? How can I, in my activities, be absorbed? And it takes some determination, it takes some belief in and faith in God, and it takes that understanding and development or cultivation of relationship. You won't remember someone who you don't have a relationship with, right? We might be walking past on the street, we might meet somebody briefly for some 5 minutes, and then we'll forget about them. But if we have a relationship, we'll never forget them. So we need to cultivate our relationship with God, so that we know that He is mine and I am His, and that takes a little time and cultivation. But I mean, that's what Krishna is teaching us in the Gita, to understand, well, who is God? What is His nature? And then the beauty about the Vedic literatures, which is something that you can't see in any other scripture in the world, is the depths of understanding and the depths of description of the nature, so the qualities of God, His appearance, His beauty and sweetness, His very nature and qualities, what He does with His time. When you getting to know someone and you're building a relationship with someone, you find out about them, right? You find out what they like, what they don't like, what they like to wear, what they do with their time. And the same can be had with our relationship with God, and that is truly amazing when you think about it. That in the beginning we begin understanding His presence in our life and know that He is a creator of everything, the source of everything. Everything comes from Him. He is protector and guardian of all beings, and was situated within the heart of all beings as the nearest and dearest friend. And that is our beginning understanding of Krishna consciousness, of God consciousness. That and connecting. What is our relationship? That I am part of Him. I am a spirit soul. The me that is beyond this physical body is eternal, pure spirit by nature. But I also have an eternal identity that I don't know about, and that I want to cultivate and realize. And so in our beginning, our relationship is that here's my Lord, or here's my master, and I am his servant. And if I please the source of everything, that personality who is the cause of all causes, and the divine reality, if I please him and try to serve him and offer my activities to him, then that is my natural position. And then gradually over time, especially when Krishna or God sees that we have some eagerness to know him, eagerness to eagerness to develop a connection, deepen our connection with him, then he'll send us more. He'll arrange for us to read about him and his personalities. And so there's another book, Srimad Bhagavatam. This is what we're going through, the Bhagavad Gita right now. There's another famous book, Srimad Bhagavatam, which outlines the details of his activities and the various relationships he has with all different companions, unlimited companions and friends, relatives, sons, daughters, parents, beloveds, all these different personalities that he has intimate, loving relationships with, in order to understand that we also have an eternal relationship with him in a specific mood, a specific type. It could be as a parent, it could be as a lover, it could be as a friend or a son or a servant eternally. And so this is what potential there is within our relationship with God to deepen and deepen. And when we have the sincerity to really, really deepen that connection, he will come before us as Sri Guru. He will manifest himself as Guru, or the divine teacher within our life, who is non-different from him in a sense, in that such a Guru has their eternal relationship with God established, and then can connect us in our eternal relationship with him, can bind us in our relationship. So it's such a beautiful process. And in this verse, it's just so hopeful that I'll just quote this verse that I was just reading from this, saying, by your prescribed duties, I can't find it now, but basically, by your prescribed duties, by, oh, here it is, yeah. In such mundane activities, the faithful discharge of prescribed duties in which one can deliberate on the spiritual reality is called yajna, an offering. So when whatever we're doing, wherever we are, if we simply guide our mind to our connection with divinity, and then use everything, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, as an offering, then it transforms our consciousness and brings us back home, back to Godhead. And that's what he's saying here. He's saying, Krishna's saying, a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom. And that's a guarantee, because we're transforming our material activities into spiritual activities. And so therefore, every minute it brings us back to being in the present, rather than hankering for something we don't have in this world, or lamenting for something that we don't have or we should have done, or, oh gosh, why did I do that? Or instead of being in that mental state of hankering, lamenting, and always thinking the future, or thinking about the past, but no, being in the present and being with God in everything we do. So every minute then we can think, stop and think. Now there's another stop and think, contemplate, meditate, and offer our activities. Now there's another powerful method that our Vedic literatures give, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, that give is the power of mantra. So we're talking about mind, absorption of our mind, right? So mantra, man means mind, and tra means to guide and control the mind. And Krishna has so many names. Krishna, the word Krishna means Krishna. It means captures the mind and captures the heart and absorbs in bliss. So the actually very name Krishna is so attractive. It means the all-attractive one who captures our minds and immerses us in bliss. So how beautiful is that? So there's so many different names of Krishna, and each of those names, he actually says Nam and Nami are one. So Nam is the name, and Nami, that is the person who owns the name. So when in connection with God, then his name and he himself are non-different. So when we draw upon the mantra of his names, the mantras of his names, then we can add that. That's something we can add into our contemplation, our thoughts, while we're cooking, while we're cleaning, while we're driving, while we're walking, whatever we're doing. If we can bring these powerful mantras of God's names into our mind and consciousness and our tongue, then that draws our mind even closer and our absorption even closer. And it is through that mantra actually that we can even become even deeper and deeper in our connection. And not only that, those mantras, they purify our tendency to ignore God. So it's, in one sense, you can say, okay, it's easy, just always think of Krishna, never forget him, or be fully absorbed. But how to get to that point? Being conditioned souls, being absorbed in matter from so many lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of forgetfulness of who we are, we've actually developed so many coverings that prevent us from always thinking of Krishna and being in that consciousness. And we have developed so many bad qualities, right? You could so much darkness covering ourselves, so many masks covering ourselves. We can get easily angered. We can get easily envious of others. We can be, retaliate and want revenge, and all these things are due to our connection with matter. We have a desire to enjoy in this world and a desire to enjoy matter. We forgetfulness of who we are, forgetfulness of Krishna. So this process of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, and taking taking advantage of the mantras that Krishna has given that are his names, then it actually helps purify. And those two things simultaneously, where we trying to engage activities as an offering in everything we do, and absorbing and taking these names like a medicine. It's actually noted like a medicine to cure the disease of ignorance, of the ignoring God, of separate interest, of forgetting our eternal nature and God's and who is God. And gradually, when it's like a practice, and when we work on it like a practice every day, then gradually over time, our separate interest, our tendency to ignore God, gets completely purified and cleansed away to reveal gradually who we really are and our eternal spiritual nature and identity in connection with Krishna, simultaneously realizing him. He will manifest before us when our true nature of love is manifest in our heart. Krishna will reveal himself to us, and we will have a personal exchange, eye to eye, seeing him, touching him, exchanging with him, and beyond just seeing him inside and outside everything, we'll actually get to love him and play with him forever in the spiritual kingdom, as it says in this verse. So many things to say, so many wonderful things this verse is bringing up. I'd love to hear any questions you have in this topic, but I'll finish there for today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chandramukhi. And of course, everyone feel free to leave your comments and questions in the chat now as we kind of conclude. But I like, Chandramukhi, that you use the word hopeful, because I think sometimes we think, like, oh, there are all these barriers and I'm in this material world and there are all these challenges and when am I going to be able to make some progress? But I think you're actually saying, the outlook is pretty hopeful. Like the prognosis is actually pretty positive, which is really refreshing.
Yeah, definitely. It's very, very hopeful and can really, yeah, I mean, I was speaking with, especially I'm a mother and I often meet with other mothers, and just how busy you are as a mother all day. But we just have to stop for a moment and to see where's my mind, and it's just, yeah, transforming it in whatever we're doing. It's not that we just have to stop all of our activities and sit down to meditate. No, but I mean, obviously, if we do that, it's going to help our whole day even more. But whatever we're doing, we can just stop and think, where's my mind today, and guide it to higher consciousness.
Yeah, I love that because I think that's the number one thing we hear. Some might say it's an excuse, but not even as an excuse, but I think in terms of anything, like you mentioned, people are always saying, I don't have time, I'm too busy, right? And it seems, and that never ends here, right? I think, especially, like as a parent or as someone who works, like that is not going to change next week. So I like that you're saying, you don't really need to wait. You don't need to wait until you have more time or until you have fewer things in your schedule. This is actually just kind of a shift that we can make right now without even having to, give up any of our activities, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's a shift. We don't have to walk away from anything. Just go about our daily life, but bring God into it and be with God wherever we are, whatever we're doing.
Yeah, that's great. And I actually think, I don't know, I think that concept is kind of revolutionary, like you're mentioning, while we're cooking, while we're cleaning, while we're driving, through this path, all of those kind of seemingly ordinary activities, we have the opportunity to bring those in to our practice. So I think that that's really powerful. And I think that that's a really important thing that we can take away from today, especially as we, go into the day or go into the week, whatever it may be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, and
very
we
powerful.
have a comment from Colleen. So Colleen says, wonderful class. Thank you, Chandramukhi. Seeing Krishna as a loving companion and wanting to serve him, guide our minds to divinity, being in the present, mantras as a vehicle. Yeah, I love that. I think that was a really great summary and kind of a synthesis of everything that you mentioned today, also Chandramukhi. So thank you so much for that comment, Colleen, and yeah, for joining us and for everyone who has joined us today.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us and anyone who's going to join us after today.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone has any questions, anything you want to add or reflect on, questions for our speakers, you can always message them on Instagram or leave them in the chat. We've had awesome conversations in the comments on some of these videos. You can comment as well. And, to take our conversations a little bit further, we did open a WhatsApp community space. So you can also post questions there for our speakers, comments. And we'll have some announcements there also. So that link is in our YouTube bio if anyone wants to join that. But yeah, thanks again, everyone who contributed to this conversation or who is listening. And thank you, Chandramukhi. And we look forward to seeing you all live on Thursday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to continue chapter 4.